Let's dive right into this explainer. If you're building AI products or features right now, you probably feel like you're constantly chasing a moving target. And honestly, you kind of are. The traditional product management playbooks, they're just completely breaking under the weight of generative AI. Today, we're going to unpack exactly why focusing on simple tasks instead of jobs is causing so many AI products to fail, and more importantly, how to fix it. We're essentially rebuilding the single most powerful product framework out there, jobs to be done, specifically for the age of AI. People don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill, they want a quarter-inch hole. Now this brilliant quote from Theodore Levitt at Harvard Business School, it sets our entire baseline. It's over 60 years old, yet, surprisingly, most startups still get it catastrophically wrong. Look, before we even touch the neural network architecture or the LLMs, we absolutely have to understand the fundamental consumer motivation. People aren't buying your AI for its tech stack, they're hiring it to achieve a very specific outcome in their lives. To get us there, we've got a pretty packed roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the core JTBD theory, look at why AI breaks traditional JTBD, tackle 3 AI JTBD complications, walk through executing AI job discovery, look at some real-world AI case studies, and finally wrap up with avoiding common AI mistakes. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the core JTBD theory. To make sure we're all on the exact same page, jobs to be done is essentially a theory of consumer motivation. It states that customers don't buy products, they hire them to do a job. The really crucial takeaway here is that understanding the specific job being hired for is vastly more predictive of your product's success than, say, knowing your customer's demographic profile. Think about it like this. Let's say a user's goal is, when I'm prepping for a quarterly business review, I want to quickly recall key client topics so I can walk in totally confident without spending 30 minutes digging through old emails. Now that is a highly specific job, and it's exactly the kind of job an AI-powered meeting memory product could be hired to do. So why does AI suddenly break this proven model? That brings us to Section 2, why AI breaks traditional JTBD. Think about a traditional product. A milkshake is a milkshake, a drill is a drill. Traditional methodology assumes a fixed, static capability. But the incredibly dynamic nature of generative AI, it completely forces a reframe of how we apply this framework. AI products learn, their capabilities shift rapidly, and maybe more importantly, users' mental models of what the AI can actually do are constantly expanding. So what used to be a very static relationship between user and product is now a highly dynamic, constantly evolving one. This dynamic shift introduces some massive headaches, which we'll cover in Section 3, 3 AI JTBD complications. These 3 complications dictate an entirely new reality for product managers. Let's look at complication 1. The job evolves as the capability evolves. Because of this, your research literally has to be continuous. Think about an AI product manager who locked in their jobs to be done analysis back in 2022. Well, they built for a job that the market had completely outgrown by 2024 because the models just got so much smarter. You simply cannot treat discovery as a one-and-done event anymore.
Then we hit complication 2. A 3-way job conflict emerges. Traditional products, well, they really only have to worry about the user. But AI, it sits right at an intersection. The user wants their problem resolved completely. The business, on the other hand, usually wants to deflect tickets to save money. And the AI model itself actually has its own structural bias based on how it was originally trained. If you just step back and let the model silently optimize for the business's deflection metric without deliberate product design, it's going to systematically underserve users on complex issues. And trust me, users will eventually notice, and they will resent it.
Finally, we have complication 3, what we call the anxiety force. Because AI relies on probabilism rather than deterministic code, meaning, it doesn't just execute a strict set of rules, it essentially guesses the next best output. You have massive hallucination risks. This creates a structurally unique friction to adoption, opacity, unpredictability. It makes people nervous. Because of this anxiety force, you have to place a disproportionate weight on building trust and actively calibrating that trust right in your user interface. Now that we understand the friction, let's talk solutions in Section 4, executing AI job discovery. The secret sauce here is conducting human-led interviews that are firmly anchored in reality. You absolutely must base your questions on specific, recent behavioral events, not hypotheticals. For example, asking, walk me through exactly what happened the last time you used an AI tool, ensures memory accuracy. It grounds the conversation. Then, asking, what triggered you to reach for it, uncovers the exact situational when of the job.
And finally, asking about the single biggest difference between that experience and their ideal product, that gives you the user's unmet needs in their own exact language, which is honestly way more valuable than any dashboard metric.
But here's a fun twist. We can actually use AI to speed up this exact discovery process. AI completely democratizes discovery by running synthetic analyses that can literally turn what used to be a massive 6-month consulting project into a 60-minute workflow. It's wild. By inputting your problem statement, you can use AI to quickly generate multiple job framings, build job maps that reveal hidden friction steps, and even run opportunity scoring to see exactly where existing solutions are failing the hardest.
Now, once you have your opportunity spaces mapped out, you can't stop there. You must apply a technical feasibility overlay. This is a totally crucial extra step specifically for AI products. Look, not all user jobs can be equally well served by current AI capabilities. By analyzing the actual gap between what the user needs and what the model can reliably do today, you convert a theoretical prioritization exercise into a highly actionable, realistic build strategy.
Let's look at how this directly translates to building, say, an AI agent. Imagine you're building a Paris by bike planner. First, define the job. Your user wants to plan and execute a seamless, great ride. Next, you map the leaky funnel. Where exactly do they get stuck? Well, they need route ideas, they need to check the weather, they need to estimate the distance. Every single one of those friction points translates directly into a specific capability for your AI agent's tool belt. You'd build a library tool for routes, a weather window tool, a calculator tool for distance. It maps perfectly. To really cement these concepts, let's dive into Section 5, Real-World AI Case Studies.
Grammarly provides a really stunning example of how jobs evolve. Through their research, they actually discovered their users had highly conflicting jobs. Job number 1 was error correction. Now, that requires the AI to be incredibly conservative, right? It shouldn't change the user's voice. But job number 3 was about speed and drafting from scratch, which requires the AI to be highly generative and creative. This fundamental conflict forced them to build a modular architecture that could contextually shift behaviors on the fly. So their launch of generative features wasn't just some random tech bet. It was a direct response to uncovering that specific drafting job.
Here's another great one. Consider an AI meal kit startup that had amazing tech but completely flat traction. By running an AI-powered jobs-to-be-done analysis, they had a massive realization. Their actual competition wasn't other recipe apps at all. Sure, the functional job was reducing dinner time prep to 0 minutes, but the hidden emotional and social jobs were so much deeper. It was really about making users feel like they're good parents feeding their family well, and socially shielding them from the anxiety of peer judgment. Once they reframed their product to solve those deeply human emotional jobs, their entire marketing and product narrative shifted, and that's what finally unlocked actual growth. All right, before we wrap up, we absolutely need to cover Section 6, Avoiding Common AI Mistakes. These are the traps that can completely derail your roadmap. First, if you define your job at the task level, like simply saying, oh, the user wants to summarize this document, you are just building a commodity feature. You're competing purely on efficiency. Instead, you need to define it at the motivation level, like, I want to walk into any meeting fully prepared. Huge difference. Second, as we covered, running research just once is basically a death sentence in the fast-moving world of AI. And finally, ignoring those emotional and social dimensions we just talked about, that leaves you incredibly vulnerable to competitors who actually understand what the user truly wants to feel. So, I'm going to leave you with this provocative question to really challenge how you approach your own AI product roadmap moving forward. Look at your current projects. Are you just bolting on a faster drill bit, or are you actually designing the exact quarter-inch hole your user is desperately trying to make? Understanding that ultimate job is the absolute key to creating AI products that don't just exist, but become utterly essential. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this rebuild framework empowers your next build.